All right, let's dive into a question that feels like it's been ripped straight from the pages of a sci-fi novel, but is now at the very center of economic debate. What happens when technology makes human work obsolete? And look, we're not talking about some far-off, distant future. We're talking about a prediction that comes from a formal academic paper. And trust me, it's a lot more dramatic than you might think.
You know, science fiction has always been our playground for the future, right? It's so much more than just aliens and spaceships. As screenwriter Connor Kyle puts it, the genre just has this built-in promise to make us think differently. It's this safe space where we can toss around these huge speculative ideas without, any of the real-world consequences.
I mean, just think about it. Genres like cyberpunk or dystopia, they're really just these massive thought experiments. They're always asking, what if? What if corporations get way too powerful? What if society just completely breaks down? They use these really dramatic settings to explore some very real fears about where we could all be heading.
But here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when a formal, peer-reviewed academic paper lays out a future that's honestly more shocking than most movie scripts? A scenario that doesn't need any special effects to be truly, deeply unsettling.
And that brings us to this incredibly provocative paper by an economist named Pascal Stiefenhofer. It models the economic impact of artificial general intelligence, AGI. And its prediction? Whoa, it's nothing short of revolutionary. The complete and total end of human employment.
So, this is the absolute crucial point. The paper argues that AGI is a fundamentally different beast. It's not just a better tool to make us more efficient, like a computer or a tractor. No, it's a total replacement for the worker themselves.
Now, to really wrap our heads around what that means, we have to kind of flip our thinking. The paper says, stop thinking about AGI as a new kind of labor. Start thinking about it as a new kind of capital. And that one change in perspective, well, it changes everything.
So AGI gets defined here as an asset, something that is owned and can be put to work, just like a factory or a fleet of delivery trucks. It doesn't earn a wage. It doesn't need health benefits. It never gets tired. It is a productive machine, pure and simple. And this comparison really drives the point home. I mean, look at how stark these differences are. A human worker costs money, has limits, and you can't just copy-paste them. AGI Capital, on the other hand, you can duplicate it for almost nothing, it works 24/7, and it's constantly getting better on its own. Now, if you're a business focused purely on the bottom line, which one are you going to choose? It's kind of a no-brainer. So, logically, the next domino to fall is this. As more and more companies adopt AGI to cut their costs, the demand for actual human labor is just going to fall off a cliff. And not just in one industry. We're talking across the entire economy, from brainy office jobs to physical ones.
And this graph from the paper, it shows just how incredibly fast this could all happen. It's a model of the decline in human economic power, and it is not a slow, gentle slope. It's an S-curve. It starts out slow, and then bam, a sudden, super rapid and total collapse as AGI takes over. The economic value of a human being just plummets towards zero.
This whole thing leads to a massive contradiction, which the paper calls the zero-wage paradox. We get this incredible explosion in productivity, we can make more stuff than ever, but the very society that's supposed to enjoy all of it just completely falls apart.
Let's just walk through this chain reaction real quick. First, AGI replaces workers. Okay. Second, since there's no demand for human labor, wages collapse. Makes sense. Third, if nobody's earning a wage, then nobody can buy anything. And fourth, you have this economy that's pumping out incredible amounts of goods and services with absolutely no one to sell them to. That is a recipe for total economic chaos.
The model's conclusion couldn't be more blunt. For human labor, wages approach zero. All the economic rewards, all the wealth, flows to capital, not to people. And the result for society? A world split clean in two. You have a tiny, tiny elite who own the AGI capital, and then you have pretty much everybody else with no economic role and no income. We're talking about a level of wealth inequality that's almost impossible to imagine.
So is this future just inevitable? The paper argues, no, this isn't really a technology problem, it's a governance problem. It's a challenge to us to completely redesign our economic and our social systems from the ground up.
The paper even brings in the philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. For centuries, our whole society has been built on this really simple deal, a social contract. You work, you earn a wage, and that wage is your ticket to participate in society. It's the absolute foundation of our entire system. But what happens if AGI just yanks labor right out of that equation? The whole contract is broken. The old rules just don't apply anymore. We have to come up with a totally new way to make sure everyone has a place in the economy and in society.
So how do we fix this? The paper suggests a few big ideas. Things like a universal basic income, UBI, which would be paid for by all this immense wealth that AGI is generating. Or maybe different ownership models, where AGI is owned by the public or by cooperatives, so the profits are shared with everyone. Or you can even just put really heavy taxes on AGI capital to fund social programs and spread that wealth around.
And this all leads to the final, critical question the paper leaves us with. If this transition is really coming, are we going to have the foresight to rewrite our social contract ahead of time by choice? Or are we going to wait until the whole system breaks down and we're forced to do it by crisis? The answer to that question, the paper argues, is going to define the entire next chapter of human history. All right,